Multilingual people of Reddit, what have you heard in a meeting that you weren't supposed to because the participants didn't know you speak their language? Working in a Toronto bank, we were interviewing a contract firm from Montreal. The two parties start talking shit about us in French. My boss, who knew I spoke the language, kicks me under the table with a very subtle headshake. After giving the potential firm's employees enough rope to hang themselves, I let them know the meeting was over and wished them a safe trip home. In perfect Montreal French. Salute la visite. Why would a Canadian assume that another Canadian not have at least a passable understanding of French? It's the Toronto bias. Quebecers often forget people move between provinces. End of a taxi ride in the Middle East. The driver called over a passerby to translate Arabic to English for me. I'm a white European. They were talking across me so I could hear everything they were saying. In Arabic, the driver said the journey cost 10. The passerby instantly translated this into English as 20. I retorted in Arabic that he said it was 10. They both pulled back a little, laughed, and accepted 10. I'm guessing there were bits that I didn't understand where they both agreed to up the price. We had something very similar in Egypt. I was a typical white foreigner, but my girlfriend at the time grew up in Dubai, despite looking like a typical pale Westerner too. So she knew Arabic, plus a few other languages as she attended international schools. So many times, she started on taxi drivers for taking the long route or suddenly upping the price. They get very taken aback when this petite white girl starts cussing them in Arabic, or they come over with the, "Hey, habibi, I take you home," and she tells them to get lost in Arabic. Brother learned numbers that are used in Egypt. The vendor tried to tell him a higher price. Brother said, "But the sign says this lower price." The vendor replied with, "Special tourist price," edited for clarity as it didn't make sense. You're cheating me? Yes, sir. This happened to me at a farmer's market in Germany. There were several varieties of fruit in small baskets, and all the varieties had signs in front of them that said €5. After my daughter picked up a basket of blackberries, I made the mistake of asking, "How much?" in English, only intending to confirm that sales tax is already included in the listed prices. €15 was her response. Egal. Ich hatte nicht erwartet, dass Sie nur für mich einen neuen Preis festlegen würden. Never mind. I didn't expect that you would make up a new price just for me. Edit. It's not like the 5 inches was written in a strange foreign script, either. It's right there on the basket, plain as day. I was the one talking when I didn't expect it. I was security at an airport, and someone from my staff asked me about some random passenger's flight time. That passenger was walking very wobbly, and it looked like he was wasted, which I also said to my coworker, assuming that with his non-local passport he didn't speak our language. Then the person answered in my language that he's not drunk. He's just handicapped, and that he knows it can seem suspicious that way. I apologized and never assumed someone didn't speak my language ever again. Not a meeting. But I used to work in close spaces with a man who was newlywed to his French wife. He would take phone calls from her, and with nowhere to go, I would try to politely tune it out. We weren't allowed to have headphones due to safety concerns. I got to hear some very sweet conversations. Hearing him tell her how much he missed her and loved her was very cute. I never told him, or anyone I knew. It's none of my business. Well, that's just sweet. Nice bit of a break from the other stories. I trained to be a Japanese translator-interpreter, but I don't have a drop of Asian blood in me, so no one would ever know unless I told them. At one point in my career, I worked at a company with a lot of Japanese colleagues and was on a call with them and some non-Japanese speaking employees. After some heated back and forth, the Japanese colleagues asked if they could switch to Japanese to talk internally. The first thing out of their mouths was, "Why don't these Americans ever listen? They are so difficult to work with." I had to put myself on mute to laugh about it. I signed off the call in Japanese just to make them sweat a bit. I read that there's a widespread belief in Japan that foreigners cannot learn Japanese, so you should always speak with them in their language. There's actually some comedy bit about this on YouTube somewhere. A diverse group of Americans, all but one of whom speak Japanese fluently, are in a restaurant in Japan trying to order in Japanese, only for the waitress to keep asking in imperfect English for their order. Meanwhile, she keeps asking the one non-Japanese speaker in the group for her order in Japanese. Because she's Japanese American, her friends have to translate for her. At the end, the whole table is basically relaying their orders through her. Hilarious. I speak fluent Korean, good enough that when I'm on the phone to a Korean, they assume I'm Korean. Not so in person. I'm blonde, blue-eyed, pale, very much Anglo. I went to a friend's house to hang out and his grandmother answered the door. I asked in Korean if my friend was there. She answered in Korean that she doesn't speak English. I proceeded to explain that I speak and understand Korean very well. She just waved her hand and said, "I don't understand English." This went on for 5 minutes, back and forth. She just never acknowledged I was speaking Korean. She eventually shut the door on me. I wasn't mad. It was so surreal. My friend came out a few seconds later because he heard someone at the door. He had a huge laugh about it. He says his grandmother just couldn't believe a white guy was speaking Korean, no matter how fluent. Eventually, over the weeks, she got it, and we could speak. I had the opposite problem. I was traveling in Poland in the late 90s, and an older woman on a bus started talking to me. I told her, in Polish, that I was sorry, but I didn't speak Polish and didn't understand. A couple of the basic phrases I'd learned before I went. She did not believe me and started yelling at me in Polish. My friend said she thought I was just trying to avoid conversation with her because I obviously did speak the language since I'd spoken 2 sentences pretty well. Lol. Pretty girl at a college house party telling her friend she thought I was cute and that she was going to jump my that very evening. Surely I capitalized on that extremely valuable information. I did not, because I'm an idiot and blocked my own self. I wasn't working, but in college, it was a French college, and we were in an English course aircraft structures. The instructors right in front of us would say we are doing things wrong or that they think doesn't get the point, etc., but would never actually correct us or say anything. One day, I finally replied back in French, "So tell him." And the two were absolutely shocked and said in French, "You understand us?" I can't tell you how often I've caught French people talking shit right in front of the person people, assuming I don't understand. In Canada, it is quite common to learn both, so I don't know why they would do it so blatantly and then act shocked every time someone understands. I worked at a restaurant in northern New Brunswick, literally the last English-speaking city before the Acadian coast to Quebec, and we got Acadians in all the time. I took French immersion and was fully bilingual, but if a French table came in speaking English straight away, I responded in English. This one table talked shit about me the entire time they were there, parents and 2 kids, a great example that they were setting. So at the end of their meal, I brought the bill and, in perfect French, told them to have a great day. Their faces were priceless. How you could think a waitress in northern New Brunswick would not know any French is beyond me. We are a bilingual province. Talking shit in French in New Brunswick is an insane move. Back when I was a research student, I taught undergraduate basic IT. The university I was at had a lot of Greek students at the time. My research partner was Greek, so he taught me a lot of Greek insults and similar things. Anyway, while teaching a bunch of Greek undergraduates, they were calling me a wanker and all sorts of stuff. I didn't acknowledge it, eventually won them round, and they were okay at the end. On the last day of teaching, I thanked them all for their participation and hard work. In Greek. Lots of red faces. Boss move. Not in a meeting, but on a hiking track in Japan where the guys behind me, speaking my native language, talked about something weird involving goats and said, "I hope that guy in front of us doesn't understand us, else it would be quite embarrassing." I just turned my head around with a big smile. Anyways, decent guys. We hiked down together. In an elevator, I heard a company president lament in Japanese to his flunkies about how bad his diarrhea was that morning. Getting off at my floor, I told him my sympathies and wished him good health soon. A long time ago, a friend was stopped by German police. They flatly refused to use English with him, knowing he didn't speak German. It must have been an act of God that empowered them, because as soon as his other half spoke in German, her being German and all, they were fluent in English. Thanks for watching. Share your thoughts in the comments about what it's like to be multilingual, and don't forget to check out our other videos. Sending you a hug. See you around.